Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a celebrity psychic reading, mediumship reading on the artist known as Prince. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I've been holding off on doing this because it's so controversial. I have so much respect for Prince. I have been a fan for years of his music, and so I owe a lot of respect. So I'm going to try to keep this as basic as possible. His passing to me uh, was very controversial, and I just never agreed with what was publicized in the media around his passing and what they made us believe that he passed from. So I'm going to explain what I see with Prince. So when I tuned into Prince's soul, he was very unique. He was visionary. He was very intergalactic. When I say intergalactic, I mean that he wasn't just your typical spiritual soul. He was he did carry within him his own soul, a lot of connection to uh, other planets and other planetary beings. So basically, he wasn't part extraterrestrial, but he did have a lot of connection. I know this may sound way out there and crazy, but he was very much in line and connected with other. His soul was like from other planets in past lives. So he was a very unique soul that was brought here to Earth to basically change the way that humans exist and bring harmony through his music and healing through his music. So he was very unique, and throughout his beginnings, he did encounter a lot of resistance from the people that were in his in the record companies that he was with. They wanted him to kind of display a certain image and kind of use his sexuality to sell records. So a lot of the things that we saw Prince do in the beginning of his career wasn't really his choice. He didn't have a choice at that time. It was part of, him being managed by these people and them feeding into his ear what they wanted him to do, and he did it, and he was successful. He's sold over 100 million records worldwide, probably more than that. But yeah, he had a lot of things that he went through. When it came to his love life, he never really was able to find a true love, so to speak. His love was his music and his fans, and that's what he wanted to, put out into the world. So he was almost like unfulfilled when it came to love. And I feel like a lot of this, he knew that his life was going to be short. I feel like Prince knew he was going to pass at a young age. He wasn't going to make it to 60 or 70 years old, to have more time to kind of, uh, enjoy a lot of the things that the world has to offer. So when I tune into his soul, what I get is that he kind of lived eccentric, and he kind of made every single moment of his life count, and also made sure that he was able to buy the things that he wanted and have the things that he wanted, even if it was way out there or it was eccentric to some people. This was what he would have done, because his soul knew more or less that he was not going to be here on earth for a very long time. He was here specifically for a lot of purposes, to bring people together through his music, to provide healing for people who are going through difficult times. You can, debate, or you can not agree with what I'm saying, but the fact of the matter is that the people that are fans of Prince, we know that his music was very healing, and there's different, eras that he went through that were more nostalgic, some that were a little bit more full of, backlash, and you can kind of tell by the music that he put out exactly what was going on in that particular part of his life. So what I get when getting towards his passing, that the weeks and months prior to his passing, Prince was being threatened. He received a lot of different threats. I also feel that in his estate, that he was targeted by certain people. I feel like there was messages on his phone, text messages that he would have received that were threatening from anonymous numbers, phone calls that he would have received from people who wanted to take him out prior to his passing. I feel like he was not, he knew, he was not in a good space. There was a lot of people that were against him, and I feel like towards his passing, the threats and the harassment that these people were causing, um, regardless if he had a big estate and he was, it was fenced in or whatever, he wasn't safe. He was not going to be safe or protected, because you have to understand the people that took Prince out, and I say that took him out because this was not a natural passing or due to a drug addiction. This was murder. Yes, Prince was murdered, and I will go into detail with what exactly I see when it comes to his life here on Earth. So when I get into Prince, when I get into Prince's energy, I see that he was very much aware. He was awakened, a spiritual being. He knew that the people that he had fought against for the record, for the ownership of his work that had been released, all his songs prior to his passing, these people did not have Prince in a good light. They did not like it. He also spoke out against these people on TV numerous times, explaining how, and I'll get into the next slide here so I can kind of go further. Okay, so on a few days before his passing, he was on Instagram and he put on there a pic. This is like one of the pictures, but there was like a cross of black spaces or white spaces, I believe, and one blacked out, like all black post. But a few days before his passing, he put this message on Instagram, as you can see here, and it says, "Just when you thought you were safe." So he did this before, and then he passed a couple of days later. He knew this was like people would say it was cryptic. I feel like Prince had dreams that people were trying to take him out. In addition to the harassment and the death threats that he was receiving prior to his passing, he already knew that they were after him and they were out to get him, and he wanted to take to social media to let the public know, because he knew in the event of his passing that what they were going to do what they typically do to a lot of the celebrity artists out there, and make it look like, oh, well, they suffered from an opiate addiction, or oh, they were alcoholic and they combined and they drowned in a tub, or oh, they just were, very, very depressed and they committed suicide. you know, like I said, if you start looking at every single passing of all these celebrity artists and how they pass, usually alone, usually, there's a story circulating months before they're passing from the media that they have addictions or they have depression, and you look at all of this and you factor it all in, you can tell that they fabricate a lot of this and they twist and they pay off the media. It's all propaganda to make people think that a certain artist passed. Prince was also disliked by a lot of the white people, and I'm not trying to turn this into a racist thing, but Prince, because I'm part black myself, I have a percentage of black in me, but Prince was definitely targeted because of his race as an African American male who was very powerful in his music and had broken records that was uncommon before, with other artists. The only other artist that we had seen prior to Prince to do this was Michael Jackson. So now we have another African American artist who is very huge, very well known, very powerful, and he's taken out by these people in the industry. He knew, so he knew what was coming. I feel like he had premonitions from spirit. He knew, and he had kind of like withdrawn from a lot of the stuff. He was asked to do some appearances on television shows and do other things prior to his passing, but I feel like the months prior to his passing, he was very reclusive. He was meditating. He was very much awakened. His third eye was open. He knew exactly what was coming. and he knew that he couldn't prevent it. I mean, this was destiny. This was, even though it's sad for me and painful for me to say, this was his life path that he agreed to, and the soul contract that he signed. He wanted it to happen this way to kind of awaken. In many ways, his passing awakened America. It awakened up the world because he had fans worldwide, and it's kind of awoken a lot of people in the music industry, a lot of these artists out there, to let them know not to be puppets to the people who they work for, not to be this machine and be used. He took to social media. So let me go to the next slide here. Um, he took to different social media outlets and he expressed himself. And I'll show you in another slide in a minute. He made statements. He had one picture where he went out there and he wrote "slave" on his cheek, to kind of talk about the music industry, uh, and let them know exactly what was, what they would do to the artist itself. Um, so what I get is that prior to his passing, they had flown him to a hospital. What I get is that there was a drug that was administered in Prince that was that you wouldn't find traces of necessarily in the body, and this was a drug that was injection in his arm that would have slowly, over a course of a few days, slowly killed Prince. It was a very powerful drug, and I feel like what it was doing was kind of weakening his heart, weakening his breathing, making him feel very sick slowly and subtly. Uh, I don't know what the name of the drug is. Spirit doesn't reveal that, but I know that it was a drug because I saw a vision of an injection, a needle being administered to him, a medication, and this medication was not what they had told him that they were going to give him. So I also feel like there was somebody that who was close to him where he would have eaten his meals, who was also paid and was putting other kind of drugs in his food. So this was ingested into the stomach and also given in the form of uh, an injection over a long period of time, a strong dosage that at the last moment when he was given that dosage would have been what led to his passing. And I feel like when the way that they fabricated this was just entirely ridiculous, if you ask me. This is just my opinion. So this guy here that we see here is Andrew Cornfield. The day of his passing, Prince was found in the elevator by staff members, but this guy, accordingly, his father was a famous doctor who treats addictions to opiate, addictions. And this guy, Andrew Cornfield, was told by his father, since his father couldn't make it, to fly out to from California, fly out there to Prince's estate in Minnesota to kind of talk to Prince and give him one of the drugs that that kind of combats opiate addictions, and to let him know that he could always reach out to their facility or to their services to get over. I'm not going to read entirely all of this, but it's just ridiculous. And when I tune into Andrew, I do not get this is a good person. I get there's a lot of lies energetically. I mean, they cannot fool me, looking at him and his soul energetically. This is not a good person. There's a lot of evil behind this. All strategic, all planned, all, was Andrew the one that was responsible for his passing? No, no. Was he aware of what was going on? Yes. But, I just don't get that all of this is just all fabricated. It's ridiculous that, it doesn't make any kind of sense that he would have gone out there, to talk to Prince prior to his passing, but Prince was already sick and had gone to the hospital, a couple of days or weeks before, and then also had gone, that same day or called. It doesn't make sense when you register everything and you think about it, how ridiculous and how insane this is and how they plan to do all of this for Prince. So Prince was going through a spiritual battle. This was he was fighting. He was the light fighting darkness, dark souls, and he knew too much, and they wanted to silence Prince. He knew too much about the people who were working for Warner Brothers, and you have to understand Warner Brothers also has or had Madonna and other artists that are very big. So, you know, those artists that are very big, like Madonna, they also need to be very mindful of what they do, because I feel like there's just so much that's going on right now with, especially with the older artists that have had a lot of success, and they want to make more off of them when they're dead, because they're worth more dead than alive to these people, after they've given them years and given them their life, but Prince was taking back his power. So let me go to the next here. You see, this is the slide where I'm talking about how Prince had the word slave written on his cheek. He was giving a message and giving his self-expression of how he felt that the record industry the music industry treats people. And he spoke out against these strong, elite, powerful men. And people just don't do that. And Prince took it there. In retrospect, when I tune into Prince's soul, um, I don't feel like he has any regrets on what he did. He's very much in peace. He is very much aware of who were responsible for his passing, and I also get that there will be justice that is going to be shed. Later on, the light is going to expose these individuals who were the masterminds behind Prince's death. So Prince, for a lot of you that don't know, I'm not going to read all of this. He basically had a prolonged dispute with his record company, Warner Brothers, to get ownership of his early releases that were on the label. And in 2007, Prince also sued a mother after she posted a video of her son dancing to a Prince song on YouTube. Prince wanted to remove a lot of his music from streaming services and stuff like that, because he wanted for people to pay, which was only right. The artist, he was always talking about how the artist doesn't get enough credit and they don't get enough payment, when it comes to the end of it, because the record companies are the ones who get all the sales, and people were, just streaming music for free illegally, and so he just didn't like that. Let me get to the next slide here. So Universal bought exclusive rights to Prince's extensive private music archive. So when Prince passed, he did not have a will, and his estate went up to the state, and they took over that. And whenever you don't have a will written, basically the state takes over, and if there's any family members, the state would have been divided among that. But as far as his catalog of his music, that was the question, who was going to take over that? So it looks like that Universal Music Group actually took and acquired. They paid almost like 30 million, I believe. I'm not sure on the number, but they paid somewhere around there to buy his catalog, which is ridiculous and an insult. Because can you imagine buying all 25 albums that he had released, prior to his passing, and not get, and I mean, and they were only worth 30 million when this man has sold over 100 million albums. So do you see kind of what I'm saying here? When an artist such as Prince, who was well known, very strong, was, has passed, they make profit off of them. They make more money off of them when they're dead than alive. This just didn't make any kind of sense. Um, I get that Prince, felt like he knew exactly what was coming, and like I said, he couldn't stop it. Um, there was something also about in the estate that he lived in. I feel like it had been scoped out by people, the people that were gonna have this all kind of targeted in how it was going to happen. But I feel like they had people watching him, his every move. They knew exactly where he was going, what he was going to do. They knew his routine. They had asked questions to his staff members prior to his passing. Um, it's an unfortunate situation when I tune into. Okay, so when I was talking about his passing, how artists are worth more dead than alive a lot of times. Look at this. Tidal will debut an unreleased Prince album in 2019. So after all of this drama and after all, his passing, they are still trying to make money off of Prince. This is something that I feel like Prince's soul is against. he does not want to have that album released by Tidal. This is a bad move, for them, and I feel like this is still up in the air, even though it's been published in the media. I feel like, that it's just something where, they shouldn't be doing this. It's wrong on all accounts, even though his fans would love to hear, unreleased music or new music that they've never heard before. But, from what I get from Prince's soul, is that this is just not what he would have wanted. I also feel like they're going to try to make a documentary, kind of like what they did with Aaliyah, Wendy Williams did with Aaliyah, which was a horrible movie. It didn't do any kind of justice. I feel like they're trying to do a movie on Prince as well and on his death, and it would never be anything like his legacy. So, you can be expecting to probably see that in the next couple of years too. A movie done about, Prince and his life. But again, I feel like it would not be any kind of justice done. If they've done any kind of documentaries or movies about his life already, I feel like there's another one that is coming, that is a little bit more autobiographical, according to the people that knew Prince very closely. But I feel like it's wrong, and this is not something that his soul would be, wanting to see. He wants to be remembered for his music and for his hard work and for his, him fighting for his rights and for the rights for a lot of artists out there, setting an example. So like Taylor Swift, she's just, also, she's very much like Prince when it comes to the rights of her music and wanting them to not, and Adele as well. So, those are artists like now that are now alive that, that are fighting against the record or the music industry to kind of protect their rights when it comes to their music and stuff. So, um, but yes, like I said, I will not buy anything that the media put about his death. I feel like it was all a murder. And I just don't feel like this is what I pick up intuitively from Prince. And, he doesn't want to be remembered as people would think that he had drug addictions because he may have, had, experimented or, used occasionally certain things. But that does not make him, an addict. And I don't care what anyone says. I know, when we are tuning into souls and energies, they don't lie. And if you look at any of the interviews, you can tell that he was fully coherent in all those interviews, and he was fully spiritually awakened more than a lot of these artists that are out there today. And he knew things that were, like I said, he had a lot of information about Warner Brothers music. And so there was a lot of different motives, not just his catalog, but a lot of different motives of powerful people that he could have taken down with releasing certain information. So he was actually considered a threat to them. And this is one of the reasons that they took him out. So again, with all my respect and love to all the Prince fans, I send you out my blessings and big angel hugs. I know this is going to be probably very difficult to listen to, especially if you're an avid Prince fan or anybody else that loved Prince. And so just please know that I'm coming from a place of love when I did this, and this was highly requested by a lot of my viewers. So, thank you once again. Blessings and love and light. Have an amazing day.